challenges. But can the arts be used as a healing device to aid military, staff, family members, and veterans? Our next speaker is a nurse officer with the U.S. Public Health Service. She serves as the program manager for Warrior Clinic at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, and she's the director of the Creative Arts Program. I have to mention, when I was confirming her introduction, I asked if she wanted her military rank used, and she said, of course, or you can just say Duchess. So please join me in welcoming Commander Moira McGuire.
Good morning. So I wanted to start out by saying that, the military generally says that they do more before 10 a.m. than most people do all day. After last night's event, I can honestly tell you that it was not this morning. And I am a little tired. So good morning. I do work at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center and serve as the program manager of the Warrior Clinic there. We coordinate care for all of the wounded, ill, and injured service members. And I've been there actually a little over a decade. I do want to say that the views that I express today are mine and mine alone. I cannot say that enough. They in no way represent the DoD. Many people may not be aware, but the DoD is actually the largest employer of musicians in the country. With the ceremonial bands, excuse me, for all of the branches, they spend a lot of money on musicians. They're generally used for morale, for recruitment. And so a lot of my work has been in moving the arts from that arena into healthcare. So the DoD also has the diversity issue taken care of. Over 25% of the DoD is comprised of minorities. And so what I focus on is not diversity in the arts, but diversity of the arts, and how we use them to help deal with some of our key health issues. So my journey actually started a long time ago, and I was a little saddened to see that the piano was gone, because I was going to play for you. Not really. I could have, but it would have been horrible. So I actually grew up underneath a piano. And my dad did a tour as a merchant marine, and then did 2 tours as a Marine at the end of World War II and then during Korea. And when he finished his service, he went to school and studied voice and was an opera singer. He taught at Catholic University for 45 years. He met my mother there, and she got her undergraduate degrees in speech and drama. She's a painter, she's a pianist. And so our life was, my dad would teach at home on Saturday, so I'd wake up in the morning to, La Boheme, and my sister and I would play underneath the piano. I don't know what my brothers were doing, and I still don't know what they were doing, but that's where we would play all day long, just listening to the students. And my mom at night would bring her guitar and, play songs for us to put us to sleep, and it was absolutely magical. And I kind of assumed that everybody had it. And it wasn't until I got older that I realized a lot of people really didn't have that experience at all. So fast forward a little bit, I go into nursing, and I put on a uniform, which, going through Catholic schools your entire life is not a foreign thing. We're very accustomed to uniforms. We're okay with them. And so I, start working in healthcare, and I mentioned to people, I play several musical instruments, not with any level of proficiency anymore, but we all had to take piano, violin, harp, flute, all of it. Irish dancing, the ballet. And I would often get, oh, that's nice. Like, wow, that's nice. And then in the public health service, actually 13 years ago, we started a choral. Well, we started a music ensemble, and I led the choral ensemble component of it for 13 years. And so I would say to people, wow, you know, we have a choral ensemble, I lead it, we do all kinds of ceremonial performances and concerts on the mall. Oh, that's nice. And then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, hold on a minute. So not only did these people not have the magical, you know, upbringing that I had, but they don't even get it. Like, they think this is nice. This isn't just nice. This is like kick-ass. This is amazing, amazing stuff. And so I thought, okay, something needs to change. So about 10 years ago, I started an art show at what was then the National Naval Medical Center. And so I got some of the same responses. Art in the military, oh my God. You know, nobody's gonna submit artwork. Nobody's gonna come to the art show. What are you thinking? But undeterred, I put my blinders on and we did an art show and it was amazing. This past October, we just had our 10th annual art show. So somebody's crazy, but it's not me. So back to our wounded, ill, and injured service members. So, you know, probably about 5 years into working on the arts at National Naval Medical Center, we became Walter Reed as part of the base realignment enclosure. You know, you start to identify similarly minded people. And we were very fortunate to have many of them at Walter Reed. So we started, initially we were all kind of rogue, doing our own little thing in different areas. Oh God, I guess I should actually move the slides, right? I also wanted to mention, you know, I had some general idea of what I was going to say when I got here yesterday. Every single speaker has been so amazing that I've spent the entire time jotting down notes. So if I seem a little short on focus, you can blame all the previous amazing speakers for that. So we decided that we needed to make the arts available, not only to our wounded, ill, and injured service members, to their families, to their kids, to the staff. You know, a military treatment facility is a very interesting place for several reasons. Number one, most major military treatment facilities house all of the care that you'll receive. There is a hospital where you would stay for inpatient procedures. There's an outpatient setting where you go to the clinic. There's a pharmacy. So all of your healthcare needs are taken care of in one space. Also, because I am a clinician and I'm a patient. So not only do I work at the hospital, but I receive care there. And many people are in a similar position. So, so we decide we need to make these services available for everyone. These are actually pictures. So we brought in 2 artists in healthcare groups. These are artists who are specially trained to work in healthcare, and they go on the inpatient units, and they work with the patients at bedside and the family members. Their main role is to help the individual reconnect to their creative self. Some people never lose contact with that part of who they are. Some people need gentle reminders, and some people, after 2nd grade, they somehow were convinced that they are no longer artists, so it's a little more difficult work. And the artists in healthcare help the service members and the family members navigate that transition, you know, period of liminality. So what we've also found, and no big surprise to many of us, is that the creative arts is a perfect instrument to help us deal with some of these challenging conditions. For instance, with post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury, and just in general help with maintaining the balance that is truly the presence of health. Anytime somebody is unhealthy, it's because some aspect of who they are, physically or emotionally, is out of balance. So when I think about the creative arts, I often think of my oldest son and his approach to cleaning his room. And it was generally to shove all of his shit, excuse my French, under the bed. And there was a lot of it, and it worked for a while. And I think emotionally, many of us do the same thing. We shove all our shit under the bed, and it does work for a while. But if you do that for too long, at some point, much like Matthew, the only way to clean it out is by getting on your hands and knees. And we don't want to bring people to their hands and knees. So the creative arts is a perfect opportunity to every once in a while pull something out, take a look at it. Is it clean? Do the sniff test. Dirty pile. Oh my God, I've been looking for that. It's perfect. And it works on all of our populations, young, old. This is more of the art that's being done by our service members. So back in November of 2011, there was a group of individuals who decided that, hey, why don't we bring people together who are working in the arts and working in the military and have a summit, see what they're doing, talk about stuff. And we did that. We actually partnered with Americans for the Arts. We collaborated with Americans for the Arts and what was then the Society for the Arts and Healthcare. And we held a day-and-a-half summit at Walter Reed, and it was immensely successful. And it was so successful that people said, we have to do this again. And we thought, okay, maybe we should do it again. And we did do it again. And we, through our collaboration with Americans for the Arts, established the National Initiative for Arts and Health in the Military. We've actually had 3 national level convenings. That first summit in 2011, we had a leadership roundtable at the Kennedy Center in November of 2012, right after I got back from my deployment to Sandy. And then we had our second national summit last April in the middle of the government shutdown. So I cannot overemphasize how determined we are. We feel as though we've been challenged in many ways, and we are just patiently perseverant. And we will have our 3rd national summit this year. So at Walter Reed, we have our artists in healthcare working on the inpatient units. We have music rehab programs. And we have people who actually work with our amputees to kind of navigate their new prosthetics and regaining either musical skills that they already had, or if they want to learn new skills. We have a neurologic music therapist who actually works at Walter Reed and at the NICO, which is the National Intrepid Center of Excellence. We have poetry and writing classes, and we have a cadre of volunteer artists. We actually have creative art therapists, one at the military treatment facility and one at NICO, and it has been amazing. We actually also have recently, so at Walter Reed is a very large campus, and it also houses the Uniformed Services University of Health Sciences. Last semester, they created a special elective for second-year medical students where they could spend 10 weeks in the creative arts program. So they actually went with the artists at bedside. They went to some of the performances. We have a program called Stages of Healing. That's one of the masks that is done at the National Intrepid Center of Excellence. So we have a performing arts series called Stages of Healing. So the medical students went with the artists. They helped to coordinate some of the performances through Stages of Healing. And I was just at a meeting on Friday, actually, discussing how we can incorporate exposure to the creative arts throughout the entire 3-year curriculum for medical students at USIS, because the benefits are numerous. And one that I often remind the students and the opportunities that I've had to speak with them is that everyone who goes into healthcare to treat people. And who people are does not reside in lab values or range of motion or gait training. It actually resides in the expressive qualities of the creative arts. And so as clinicians, not only does it make our patients feel better, it makes us better clinicians because we know who the people are that we're there to treat. So it's a win-win situation. These are some of the performances that we've had through Stages of Healing. And of course, the beauty of Stages of Healing is that it benefits even the water delivery guy when he comes through the lobby. It's open access for all. I don't know where I am. Oh, 40 seconds. Okay. So, so people are probably asking, why did Erin and Afa ask her to speak? And I've asked myself that question several times. It could be because of the uniform. I gotta tell you, everybody looks great in this uniform. I don't care who you are. And there's nothing like this to get people's attention. But I actually met them a year ago at an event where Erin and I engaged in dueling banjos of diversity, trying to figure out which one was more diverse. I think I won, by the way, but we'll see. So I often like to present myself as a case study. So as most of you can tell by my name, I am very Irish, was raised very Catholic. My parents taught at Catholic University. We went to all Catholic schools, Knights of Columbus pool in the summer, very, very Catholic. I have 6 children. The 2 oldest ones are Latinos. I actually converted to Islam 10 years ago. My 4 younger children are half Irish and half Ethiopian. They might be the only 4 people on the planet who are half Irish and half Ethiopian. My 2 closest friends are Buddhist, and my other girlfriend converted to Orthodox Judaism. And so while I have anxiety in checking boxes, it's not that I don't acknowledge that I am Caucasian. It's that I feel as though it doesn't represent anything about me. Like when you go home, nobody looks like me. Everybody looks different. When I go to my friend's house, when I'm with my family, everyone looks different. And so, John was mentioning yesterday, he brought up the quote from Warren Buffett, that the penalty has to be great for people to change their behavior or to change a culture. So what if that pain is actually very personal, right? So, whenever anybody experiences the racism or the bigotry, that you have to come home and look at it in the face. So I think Erin invited me because he and I actually represent the future. That there will come a day when we don't have to do dueling banjos, that we could actually do something else with our banjos, or that, the incidence of people like us is not rare, it's actually very common. And that you would look at somebody's last name, McGuire, and you could still say, wow, tell me about you, because I don't know anything about you. So that is my hope. I've gone way over time, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Commander McGuire. Our final featured speaker for SphinxCon is a very familiar face on television. He's a dancer in his own right. He shared the stage with stars such as Bing Crosby, Gene Kelly, Sid Charisse, and Chita Rivera. He's been a pioneer in reality television and a driving force in the world of performing arts. He is the co-creator, co-executive producer, and judge of So You Think You Can Dance, which is introducing diverse genres of dance to new audiences. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nigel Lythgoe.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you. I have to tell you that when I was asked to make a speech on the diversity in dance, I thought I was going to be chatting to you about all the different styles of dancing. I was going to expound on English folk dancing and explain why English Morris dancers skip around waving handkerchiefs and bang little sticks together. I was going to talk to you about character dancing and thrill you with the finer points of classical Greek dance. You would have been stunned into silence, a bit like you are now, possibly even put to sleep. It didn't enter my head that I was going to be talking to you about racial diversity in dance. I hadn't heard of SphinxCon, didn't know what SphinxCon was, thought I was going to be talking to a group of dancers. So I'm just putting everything into perspective. I've been in your country now for 12 years. I brought American Idol over here. I'm sorry about that. I didn't know who I was going to talk to, and I didn't know what I was going to talk about. So that's putting everything in perspective before I start. Can I ask you a question? Who has seen So You Think You Can Dance? Would you mind just waving at me? Okay, good. That helps. Thank you. Because I guess in my own small part of the dance world, racial diversity is the norm. In fact, on my program, I don't see any racial discrimination whatsoever. The dancers that I audition are of all colors, creeds, races, religions, and even sizes. There are, of course, overwhelming ethnicity differences around the country, generally governed by the socioeconomic demographics of the area. I know if we go to Salt Lake City, we'll get a predominance of white ballroom dancers. Mormons love ballroom dancing. If we go to Atlanta, Chicago, or Detroit, we'll have a great many black hip-hop dancers. While Memphis, just recently, I've been there in the last 3 weeks, it surprised us with contemporary kids of all colors. However, at the end of the day, by the very nature of the program that demands dance diversity, So You Think You Can Dance will have complete racial diversity in its top 20. Color, race, or creed I never thought about on this show, only talent and dance genres. Due to the fact that every dancer has to compete in every style, there's not even any racial dance profiling, which we're tending to get a little bit. Our only thought is to try and get each of the dance genres well represented. I remember at the beginning of season 1, a young black girl came up to me and said, "Only white people will ever win this competition. They are the only ones that will be able to afford dance classes." She overlooked one thing: performance. Dancers who have had difficult times, dancers who can bare their souls, who are prepared to share their life experiences, are far better equipped to express the depth of their feelings and connect with a voting audience. And they connect far more easily than even good technical dancers. Color doesn't come into it. Since the program began, we've had 4 white girls win, 1 Hispanic girl, 1 black girl, 3 white guys, and 3 black guys. Pretty varied group. We've also had some incredible Asian dancers: Hawk, Katie Sheen, Cole Harib, and I do feel that Alex Wong could have won the year he competed had he not ripped his Achilles tendon. I'm often asked if we purposely put white and black dancers together. Again, we don't think about the dancer's ethnicity, but the strength of their particular dance style. Initially, a good contemporary kid will be partnered with a good hip-hop kid, a tapper put together with a ballroom dancer, and then after the first few rounds, we try and partner everyone with everyone. I believe the ethos of mixing the dance styles and partners has been a major factor in this program's success, and it has been enormously successful. In fact, we've won more Emmys with So You Think You Can Dance than we did with American Idol. Certainly something that has been extremely gratifying for me has been taking young urban hip-hop kids who have never had a lesson in their lives and introducing them into the world of contemporary ballroom and classical ballet. It's inspired them, it's given them a whole new vocabulary in order to express not only what's in their heart, but what is in their soul. On the other hand, it can be quite amusing, I must say, to see a well-trained young white girl attempting crump. It is important, though, that hip-hop or urban folk dancing, as I like to call it, isn't restricted to dancers of color, especially when white choreographers like Chris Scott and Tabitha Dumo are adding so much to that genre. The joy of this diverse cocktail is the opportunity to learn from each other and gain knowledge that offers boundless possibilities of growth. This is one area of dance one area of dance that is sadly without diversity. So it's about the lack of racial diversity in ballet that I'm going to talk to you about today. And speaking tangentially for a moment, cultural diversity isn't just a problem in dance, as we know. It has possibly never been so much in the forefront of global thinking as in the first and now early second decade of the 21st century, owing to the rapid growth of multicultural societies and countries' ever stronger international migration flows and the accelerated development of digital technologies. Cultural diversity is becoming the principal challenge of our times. Let me begin by saying that I believe cultural diversity to be the defining characteristic of mankind. Having said that, it should be preserved and cherished for the benefit of us all. Some people maintain that perhaps in the United States we should glorify our diversity rather than trying to homogenize it. Wow, homogenize, it's such a bland word. I think it can be so much more exciting than that. I believe that learning from each other can only provide us with so much more material to expand upon and to create with. It transcends all the other alternatives. I'm not talking about losing anyone's culture. Diversity is understood to be the common heritage of mankind. However, in my opinion, it needs to not only be protected, but also promoted. How beautiful is Indian Kathak dancing, the Russian Gopak and Trepak that has inspired so much in the b-boying world. I idolize and would never want to lose the Alvin Ailey Company or the magnificent Shenyang Chinese Dance Company. I'm talking about sharing and integrating those cultures. I think that cultural diversity is only strengthened by the free-flowing exchange of ideas. In the multicultural society in which we live today, interactivity between cultures is extremely important. We must be aware that continuing to label ourselves will naturally separate us. I may upset a number of you by saying that I believe as a nation, America perpetuates the separation of white and black cultural identities. I don't believe it is helped by continually referring to people actually born in America as African Americans, or Indian Americans, or Chinese Americans. Surely they are Americans. This nation's integration process is being prolonged by the highlighting of the differences in its population rather than the commonality. There's nothing wrong with being proud of your heritage, unless, like me, you're Viking stock and probably only famous for raping and pillaging most of Great Britain. So yes, take pride in your heritage and your history, but don't lose sight of what's happening in our world in your own lifetime. Forget history for a moment. It is important to recognize that we have a role to play right now in today's society. We are beset with numerous problems that face us every day: obesity, bullying, poverty, discrimination of every single kind. Only if we come together as a nation will we be able to fight the worst of these issues here in America. while we constantly draw a line between ethnicities that creates barriers between us, we will never achieve the greatness that mankind can only hope to attain. Let us remember, excellence is a human capacity not restricted by ethnicity. In 1933, Lincoln Kirsten wrote a passionate 16-page letter to his friend Everett Austin Jr., the director of Wadsworth Athenaeum in Hartford, introducing a man named George Balanchine and a dream to remake ballet for America. The plan was to have, and I quote, 4 white girls, 4 white boys about 16 years old, and 8 of the same Negroes. The outcome of that letter was the creation of the School of American Ballet and the New York City Ballet. However, Lincoln Kirsten's plan for student diversity was never realized. And while other minorities have made inroads into classical ballet, the complicated reality of racial inequality still persists, especially for black women. Black guys have had a better opportunity. There are fewer guys in ballet because men are always in short supply, and certainly black men have attained some success, the most famous, of course, being Arthur Mitchell, who was the principal dancer in New York City Ballet before founding the Dance Theatre of Harlem in 1969. Misty Copeland, who I'm sure you all know, is ABT's, American Ballet Theatre's, 3rd black soloist ever. Black dancers remain anomalies in ballet companies across the globe, not just here in America. But without principal dancers at major American companies, young black students have no role models. Misty believes she's made a difference by being one of the rare black ballerinas on stage. She was recently with me as a judge on So You Think You Can Dance, and she told me this. She said, for young African Americans to feel that they have a chance to see a brown face on stage, that ballet isn't this white world that's untouchable to them, I think it's so important for them to see me and hear me. Last year, Misty had the lead role in the production of Firebird. The diverse crowd that actually turned out to see her performance surprised everyone. Misty described the night as a pivotal one for not only herself, but for black women in dance. For the first time ever, she said, half the audience was full of African Americans, and I'd never, ever seen that before. Racial diversity is not just going to happen in ballet companies, that much is clear. But we are at a time where attitudes towards race seems to be evolving in this country and across the globe. However, dancers of color are still too few and far between when it comes to ballet. And who can blame them when you hear the awful experience that a young black ballet student, Precious Adams, I don't know if you read this, but she had a terrible experience at the Bolshoi Ballet School in Russia. After complaining to her teacher that she felt like an unwanted outsider, the teacher amazingly suggested that she try experimenting with lightening her skin. How disgusting in this day and age. In the commercial world of dance, the coming together of two cultures in this country, the formerly trained technical dancers, and on the other hand, the exciting, often crazy hip-hop dancers, has revitalized the dance world. And that's right the way around the world. It's been inspiring to everybody. Therefore, imagine the beauty of having a black girl dancing the Black Swan, or an Asian prince jettying across the stage. By the way, I don't know if you've seen Memphis Jooker Little Buck dancing the Dying Swan to Yo-Yo Ma. If you haven't, please check it out on YouTube. He is absolutely fantastic. Without question, classical ballet as we know it is a celebration of what was an elite white culture. It doesn't have to be. We can change that. There are many, many roles suited to dancers of color. Listen, we will only ever have a black swan when we, whites and blacks, let go of the notion that in this cultural divide, ballet belongs on the white side. We need to persuade parents in the African American community to allow their daughters and sons to enter into a world that is not black, white, Hispanic, or Asian, but a world that has become an important art form in America's cultural life. This art form demands excellence, sublime artistry, and the highest level of physical accomplishment, which can only be gained by doing a class every day. Without question, the long-term dedication that goes into preparing for a professional ballet career and the cost and the fact that 1 in 1,000 make it is already off-putting for any aspiring young ballet dancer. Very few black dancers commit to ballet, very few make it into companies, and if they do, they rarely move on from the corps de ballet. Even in this new era, the elitism that has occurred in the past is not easily forgotten. However, economics are becoming the driving force in making the changes that our modern society demands. Who would have thought money drives everything? It has been realized that we will have more racial diversity in our audiences if we get more racial diversity on the stage. And thanks to exciting programming by some arts centers across the nation, a dwindling, aging audience base traditionally drawn to ballet as an elite privilege is being revitalized into young sophisticates who relate to the physicality of the art form and also wish to understand its content. They not only demand diversity in our society, they are prepared to fight for it. While outreach programs in our communities introduce young people to the strengths of ballet training, such as learning self-discipline, focus, and the value of hard work, they are geared to be educational rather than recruitmental programs for the profession. That's why I'm thrilled with an American Ballet Theatre initiative. ABT aims to take an important step towards helping the classical ballet profession by better reflecting the multicultural and ethnic diversity of this country's population. It's called Project Plie. You may have heard of it. It aims to cultivate a more culturally diverse representation of dancers within the industry. And Project Plie has 6 excellent components. 1, ABT will provide scholarships for gifted children of color so that aspiring young dancers have access to high-quality training. 2, scholarships for teachers of color or those who have dedicated their lives to serving communities of color to ABT's National Training Curriculum Certification Program. 3, fellowships for young arts administrators of color so that they can participate in ABT's internship program. 4, ABT are putting together an advisory group to help them figure out how to address the issue diversity in professional ballet. 5, ABT are partnering with a number of professional ballet companies around the country. The goal of these partnerships will be to provide a forum for ballet companies to discuss best practices of working with communities of color and for companies around the country to learn about talented teachers and dancers of color if they have the employment positions open. Finally, and I've got to be honest, most important to me, is ABT will create partnerships with the Boys and Girls Clubs of America to provide master classes in their clubs nationwide. And they have something like 4,700 clubs across the country. Now, they will use either ABT staff or one of over 1,000 certified teachers to do an intro to ballet masterclass. In addition to providing enrichment to these children, they will identify gifted children and then provide them with a scholarship to a quality ballet school in their own community. If the student successfully completes their first year of training, they will be eligible to come to New York and participate in ABT's Young Dancers Ballet Workshop on a scholarship. And what I love about Project Plie is the realization that the future is not just about dancers of color. It's about teachers. It's about administrators to help them make the training to help them make the training process more truly diverse. The recruitment of dance teachers from minority backgrounds and adding arts administration fellowships aimed at building up diversity behind the scenes in company management are both excellent initiatives. It will naturally create a diverse environment of the dancer, a comfortable world where dancers of color don't feel marginalized or alienated. Misty Copeland again said to me, it's felt very strange. She started in a Boys and Girls Club and said it felt really strange to come into a ballet company where I was the only black person there. Nobody made me feel bad. I just felt different. And I think if we supply the teachers and the administrative staff, people are going to feel much more comfortable. Rachel Moore, the CEO of American Ballet Theatre, said, "We sincerely believe that diversifying the art form at its training level will strengthen and broaden the pipeline of future artists and help ensure ballet's continued relevance in the 21st century." No one believes that the results of these efforts will be visible immediately, but if ballet is to survive, it must reflect today's communities and embrace diversity and the exciting changes and possibilities that that will bring. In putting this speech together, I've read many articles, one of which I'd like to borrow an idea from, by also appropriating Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream concept and say my dream would be that for one day, every dancer will be judged by the excellence of their dancing rather than the color of their skin. And in the grand scheme of things, as Haile Selassie, the Emperor of Ethiopia, once said, and Bob Marley once sang, "I pray for the day when the color of a man's skin is no more significant than the color of his eyes." Thank you for listening to an old Englishman today reporting on your country. I am very grateful to be here and thrilled to be able to talk to you this morning. Thank you all very, very much. I believe that we have a question and answer.
We do. We have time for a few questions. If you have a question, put your hand up and I'll come to you. Here we go.
Wow, I made that much of an impact, did I?
It's not a question, but sitting right here is a product of Project Plie.
Ah, where are you? Oh, hi. Can you say a few words? Can you say, how did it happen for you?
Hi, I'm Eric Halal, and
Stand up, darling.
2 summers ago, I went to ABT in California's summer intensive program, and then they invited me as a national training scholar to come to their summer intensive in New York, and that was this summer. And then they invited me this year, and I was the first recipient of the Project Plie Award, the Josephine Premis Fails Award. So,
Congratulations.
thank you.
It does amaze me. I mean, I honestly believe, and this might be outrageous to say, but I do believe that the world of ballet has been racist, absolutely racist in the past. They said for many years that black dancers were not the right body shape and therefore could not be in ballet companies. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Everybody knows that every race has different body shapes.
Another question?
How you doing, Nigel?
I'm good, thank you.
I have a question concerning hip-hop, modern dance,
Yep.
Contemporary dance. When you look at that in the scale of, as far as African-American males, do you think that the typecasting that goes along with the hip-hop title or modern dance, is that a problem with diversity in dance as well?
Well, the big thing for me is I like to call it urban folk dancing because, in truth, it borrows from so much. I mean, I went to South Africa and went into townships there, and they have a dance called the Pansula, which is their version of hip-hop, if you like. And the kid said to me, oh, we've got some fantastic steps, you should take them back to America with you, and show the kids there. I said, oh, please show me something. And he went, I said, that's the Charleston. And he, oh, no, man, that's Pansula. I said, oh, okay. So we've borrowed, it's amazing how many things come from it. You know, I said in my little speech that the Gopak and the Trepak, which were Russian dancers, a lot of the b-boying that goes on now, the jump over the legs and the cobblers and everything, is Russian. So I think, you know, it's all sort of borrowed and bought. I think what we've got to be careful of is that we don't just associate hip-hop with the black community and ballet with the white community. We really have to share. And what I found on So You Think You Can Dance is that by bringing the two communities together, dancing has literally gone vertical. If you've watched So You Think You Can Dance, you'll see how stronger the dancers have got. And that's because we're giving the opportunity to the hip-hop kids to do the contemporary, and we're given the opportunity of the ballet girls to do the hip-hop. And it just creates an incredible community of, I want to learn this, I want to learn that. Wow, this has expanded my vision of dance. It's given me more vocabulary to perform from. And somehow, the white girls that have had the ballet experience, if you put a piece of music on and say improvise, they're going to do ballet steps. Whatever they do, they're going to do ballet steps. The other kids that have had no experience of learning steps are much more creative. And they just feel the music and they interpret the music much better than being cast. And I class this the same as arts in schools. I mean, you give people, these are the facts, these are the facts. If you're not giving them the creativity to find out how to embellish on those facts and how to be creative with those facts, you're going to end up where we are right now. And I think, where's American education at the moment? About 28th in the world. Same with the British education. I think we're about 24th or something ridiculous, because we're not using creativity to teach our kids.
Any other questions?
Hi. Well, I don't know how much of a question this is. Might be more of a comment. But I come from a community that doesn't really have a robust offering of the arts. And on the first season of So You Think You Can Dance, a guy from my high school, Jason Williams, was on the show. And I can't tell you how many new individuals became a fan of dances and would actually go in their own community to seek out new opportunities strictly because they saw Jason on TV. So I just wanted to applaud the efforts of your own programming to really opening the door to someone who would have never, ever even walked through the gate of a dance hall.
Thank you. It's important for me as well that our judges are diverse and that our choreographers are diverse. It isn't just a question of using dancers. It's showing that everybody in any strata of life should be diverse too. It's also, I've seen a change in dads that have come up to me and said, because dancing now is so athletic, fathers who wanted their kids to be footballers and, the kid wants to be a ballet dancer, that originally would have said, I don't want my kid dancing, are now saying, wow, no, I'm really proud of my kid. He's done this, he's done that, and he's going to join a contemporary ballet company. So I'm very proud of that too. It's amazing how everybody thought any guy that danced, he's got to be gay. Well, it doesn't matter if he's gay or straight. You don't have to label people. You don't necessarily, think, every dancer's gay. You don't go to your dentist and say, every dentist is gay. Why has every dancer got to be gay? It's crazy. And so I always insist that when they're on stage, they are very strong, very masculine. I don't care what they do off stage. If you could see the television, it's hilarious, actually, because they come on stage and they're very strong and they march around and very big. And you give them a ticket and they go, ooh.
We have time for one last question.
Nigel, hi. My name is Bill Doggett from San Francisco, Oakland area. I'm over here back in the back.
Hi,
Thank you.
turfing. You've got some great dance in there called turfing.
Yes, and Black choreographers group in San Francisco is very vital. But also, I wanted to just address something from my attendance at San Francisco Ballet. I'm sorry if there's an echo. It sounds like there is. Helgi Thomasson has done something really incredible to diversify his company, and in fact, in their signature 1915 San Francisco update of the Nutcracker, there's an interracial couple in the pas de deux, which I've never seen anywhere. And it really, I mean, if you're sensitive to these kinds of casting decisions, it's really, significant. And I see, in speaking directly, following up to what you just said about the perceptions of male dancers being uniformly or monolithically gay. Tomlinson himself has really gone out of the way to really take dancers, young dancers, put them in his studio or in his development process studio who had issues with being bullied.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of, I think, Latino dancers in particular, young dancers, male dancers, who are just extraordinary on stage. And, you have to kind of give people like Helgi Thomasson really, an applause for making not only the decision to diversify the company, but to understand on another level the social, political impact that he's making. So I just wanted to congratulate you on what you're sharing with us and to also call attention to some of the important work that's being done in the Bay Area around diversity in dance.
Well, I want to congratulate you all on the work you're doing with diversity. It's something that, I think, please God, in 20 years' time, we'll all look back on, or if we're still here, and go, wow, could you just imagine they didn't have black dancers in companies then? What were they thinking? So it's like looking back now at the 50s and 60s and seeing how America and Russia were so far apart. And now just looking at the ice dance competition, how the American dancers are with the Russian trainers and now the best in the world. And it's that coming together of cultures which is so important for us. If we're, it's almost like our Creator said, I'm going to make you different colors. I'm going to give you different languages. This is your trial. Get over it, people. Get over it for mankind, Maybe one day we'll do that.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to Nigel Lythgoe.
Thank you very much.
And now to wrap up SphinxCon 2014, please welcome to the stage once again, Aaron Dworkin.
Hello, everybody. So thank you again to Nigel and to all of our speakers. This has been a fantastic year. And of course, we've been streaming all of this, but then in about, I think, a week and a half, all of the podcasts will be available. So we encourage all of you to share the speeches that you enjoyed with colleagues, friends, family, so that we continue the conversation moving forward. Before we close and people begin to head out to Orchestra Hall for the finals concert, I thought I would just explain about the puzzles, and we actually have two winners, if you will. One set of winners who were not formal conference attendees, but they were actually the very first to solve a puzzle, the junior division semifinalists of this year's competition. If you guys could actually just stand not only for your competing this year, but also for solving the first puzzle. Can you guys stand to be recognized? They were highly focused. So thank you guys. But we had one of our conferees who solved one of the puzzles. And so first, I just wanted Mark to introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Mark Kent. I'm the Vice President of Education and Community Engagement for the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra. In my pod, I had our good friends from the Houston Symphony and Jason from Fractured Atlas in New York, so it was a great group.
So Mark, you were working on the puzzle, and basically you got right towards the end.
Oh, we were so excited.
And tell us what happened.
Well, you know, we finished the puzzle almost, and then we realized that there was a piece of the puzzle missing. And we were like, someone stole one of our puzzle pieces and tried to sabotage our greatness is what's happening here. Or that it's lost and there's no way we're going to finish this puzzle because the piece is just gone. And so I went to Xavier and said, Xavier, a piece of the puzzle is missing. Can we just win? Can we just? And he's like, no. I'm like, but how can we finish the puzzle if we don't have the piece? If the piece is missing, we can never, ever, ever finish it. So can we just win anyway? And he's like, that's part of it. That's part of it. So we went on a sort of a brainstorming session of, okay, what does he mean by this? What's going on? And then it occurred to someone in the pod that when we opened up the box, the bag was open, which means that it had been pilfered. And then we realized that probably the puzzle pieces had been switched among the tables. So I set out on a journey to try and find the missing piece of the puzzle with my colleagues in the other groups.
And so before I just ask you about that process, when you guys were just faced with the fact that the puzzle at that point kind of couldn't be completed, what was kind of the sense of, I don't know, either emotion or feelings at the table, or what was your sense?
I mean, it was frustrating because, first of all, we felt very powerless that if the piece is gone, we don't have the ability to do this without it being there. So we were frustrated and sort of looking at each other, questioning, what are we going to do? How are we going to complete this? We're never going to win. And then even at some point, well, then let's just forget about it. You know, we'll never win. It's the piece is missing. Let's just give up.
And then when you embarked on the journey to try and find, amongst all the pods and people, a single jigsaw puzzle piece, what happened in that process?
Well, you know, it was great because we actually had the opportunity to have dialogue and conversation with folks we really hadn't reached out to yet, and to learn a little bit more about who they were. It took a minute to walk up to the table and sort of rummage through their pieces. And once we did that, we found that folks were very intrigued by what we were doing, but it really opened up dialogue for us to learn a little bit more about each other. And I walked away maybe not with puzzle pieces, but oddly enough with business cards. And it was a really great experience.
Right. And then when you finally found the piece.
Yes, my colleague Nikki Baker from the Atlanta Symphony triumphantly found the piece and brought it back to the table, and we were able to complete it. And it was a great thing for us. And I think because many of us had been through, you know, sort of experiential things before, we certainly talked about the significance of what we had been through. And, you know, the understanding that we have to very often go outside of our own immediate selves or body of folks to get the answers. And that in and of ourselves, we cannot complete the picture. You know, that the missing piece is always going to be there until we reach outside of our organizations, outside of our own programs or institutions, and engage others who very often are going to bring to the table and bring to the mix that one small piece that's missing. And one thing is certain, is that if you don't get the piece, the picture is never going to be complete. Ever. Ever.
Yeah. So aside from $5 iTunes cards for all of the junior division semifinalists and a $100 iTunes card for our conferees who completed it, when we came up with this idea, we had absolutely no idea what was going to happen. We didn't know if anyone would solve it. We didn't know if everyone would solve it. We didn't know kind of what would happen. But obviously, we saw the parallels, and what we wanted to do was try to create a similar situation, except knowing that the challenges that most of us face and that have been discussed over the past 3 days are far, far more difficult than a jigsaw puzzle. And that for most of the situations that I've heard about where there are challenges in diversity, whatever institution or person is experiencing the challenge, the entire solution is never possible within their own current sphere. They have to step out. And so we wanted to try to simulate that and see what happened, both to hopefully see the joy and the sense of triumph when you actually are able to solve it. But that's simply the process itself of stepping out once you get past the frustration and the fear, no matter what, even if you solve it or not, the benefits of the journey help to bring about a solution as well. So we're glad that one puzzle was solved, and we'll have to think of something else next year because now everyone will know. Mark, thank you, and thank you Junior Division semifinalists, and thank all of you for coming. And the one thing that I shared last year and that I just asked this year is to make sure that you take, this was a huge volume of information, obviously over 3 days, use the podcast afterwards, but keep the conversation going, and let's make sure that we translate the conversation, the dialogue, the information that has been shared into action over the next coming year. And we look forward to seeing you at the finals concert and seeing you all next year. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Well, that wraps up SphinxCon for 2014. We want to remind you to please fill out the comment cards in your packets. That'll help us shape SphinxCon for 2015. We'd love to see you at the conference this evening. The Google Community page will remain active. You can continue to share your thoughts. And if, again, the conversations we've heard over the past 3 days will be available at sphinxcon.org in about a week. Thanks again for attending. I'm Jennifer White. We'll see you in 2015.